Hello and welcome to the Sweaty Dive Podcast. I am one half of your hosts known as Buffcharmander, joined as always by my good pal KG.
You.
And we come together once a month to discuss a movie. This month we are discussing a movie in which the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is set to change forever. Or did it? We'll get into that very shortly. This month, October 2022, we are talking Black Adam, DC's most recent outing into the live-action movie space with their comic book films, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the title role of Black Adam, a role that he has been basically trying to get off the ground for like 15 years.
Yes, 15 total years.
Which is an insane thought process. This man is... I wowed before we recorded, KG, because The Rock is 50 years old. He was supposed to play this character at 35.
Wow.
That is an insane jump. And he got
I thought about that while we were watching the movie. Like, how old is he?
Yeah.
I don't know why I just thought about that, because people always give Cavill flack for his age. And it's like, oh, you got to recast. Not everybody looks like The Rock, but I'm going to say for 50 years old, dude don't look bad.
No. He's got Tom Cruise stuff going on where it's like, how are you doing this? And I think Cavill will age fairly well. I'll
tell you one thing. If he ends up being ugly, then no one will ever look me in the face again. I'm just going to walk around with a bag on my head.
And before we get any further into this, we go full spoilers on this podcast. Only listen to this podcast if you've seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers. Let's jump right into it. I've been very curious about how this podcast is going to go. We always start off with your take first. So, KG, give me your take on...
I want to flip it. I want to hear yours. We're flipping it up this week. We're flipping it up this month. Excuse me. Fine. I want to hear yours. Let's go.
Let's do it. I thought that this was a big, dumb, shove popcorn down my stupid gullet and enjoy what's going on movie. There was moments of dialogue where I was like, ugh, cringe into myself, but I was okay with it for the most part, because I would say for about 80% of the movie, I enjoyed what I was watching. I was like a nonstop roller coaster ride. And if you're going into this movie expecting The Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2, Civil War, Logan, that style of comic book movie, you're going to be really disappointed, like severely disappointed. But if you go into it knowing this is just kind of a classic action blockbuster time at the movies, I think you'll be entertained enough. Those are my quick thoughts. What are yours?
Interesting. I thought it was aggressively okay. Like the most aggressively okay movie I've seen in a long time. I would definitely agree that your take is correct in terms of if you think this is one of those multifaceted, layered comic book films that we're sort of used to from the MCU, you're not going to get that. And I was pretty disappointed when the movie started. I personally hated the dialogue in the beginning. Beat for beat, I could easily predict what was going to happen. And then at one point, I was like, you have two options here, KG. You can either watch the film and just kind of lump about it the whole time, or just try to enjoy what you can enjoy. Of course, I went with the latter because I was like, I don't want to spend the money and sit here for 2 hours and some odd minutes to just be miserable the whole time. But once I kind of just turned my brain off and focused on what I really did enjoy, I had a pretty good time, all in all. Is it the best? No. All the hype? Absolutely not. And I am a little pissed that this movie has been hyped for so long. And I told you before, it either has to be 100% or nothing for me. Obviously, I was being a little hyperbolic there. Obviously, studios have to hype their films and actors have to hype their films. Otherwise, films aren't going to get made and produced. I just wish that it lived up a little more to the expectations that we were given. But once I kind of just recoiled in my seat, ignored the crying baby to my left, which I will get into later, all in all, it was not a bad time.
Interesting. So I kind of want to just get right into the marketing of this movie, actually.
Okay.
To me, I don't think Warner Brothers or DC, Discovery, whoever, did a good job marketing this movie at all.
I would agree.
They put literally all of it onto The Rock. It was all on his shoulders.
And for some odd reason, scenes in the trailer looked better than they did in the movie.
Interesting.
So this might be just my personal opinion, But when he like gets unearthed and he kills those soldiers, for some reason in the film, I was like, this isn't. Maybe it could have been the sound. I don't know if the theater was kind of like a little quiet to me, or maybe I'm just getting old. My ears are bad.
No,
But I
no, no,
didn't.
no. It's the movie.
It was the film, okay, because it didn't like punch me when he was like zipping and whapping and like doing all this stuff and like literally incinerating people. Which I was like, I like it. This is fun. I didn't feel like the effect of it as the trailer gave away. You know what I mean? Like when I watched that cut together trailer, I was like, this seems impactful. I feel these punches. These dudes are getting broken. When it happened and he was unearthed in the movie, I was like, this is kind of dull. And I don't know if it's the sound or the way it was edited, but I didn't feel that same impact. And I kind of felt that at different points throughout the film. There were points where a hit was a hit, but there were other points where I was like, it feels like powder puff in a sense. Like it's not as strong as either they wanted it to be or the sound isn't there. You know what I mean?
The mix seemed a little off on the sound for the movie.
Okay, so I'm
Not
not
just me.
crazy. All right, good to know.
Actually, Dan Merle, a critic who I frequent his stuff on YouTube. Go check him out. He's really good. He actually said in his review that he was same thing you said. He was like, "Am I getting old? I don't know if it was just me. Let me know in the comments if at some points you just couldn't really hear the movie that well." Totally get you on that. I think that The Rock is such a big social media presence, and I don't know if like I hate talking about like the behind the scenes stuff, but like there's this big merger happening at Warner Brothers slash Discovery. If you're unaware of it, it's kind of taken over a lot of space within the film news sphere. I'm not sure if that big merger has caused their marketing department to kind of just shrug their shoulders, and The Rock had to do so much work. And The Rock being such a big presence on, I mean, we all follow The Rock on social media, especially on Instagram. You're getting nonstop stuff about this movie. I can see why. And a lot of people felt like this, not just you. It felt a little tiring hearing about Black Adam so often.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. I totally do. For me, it didn't bother me much because I just kind of understood that they want, number one, there's a lot of weird / bad press about Warner Brothers right now, the leadership, all this stuff over there, which we're not going to get into. I can understand The Rock going, I need to overcompensate by just pumping out good stuff about this movie and trying to get as many people to go as possible.
Yeah.
And by the way, not a lot of people were in our showing.
No, it was when I was waiting for you and our other buddy to show up. I was like taken aback as to how many open seats were there. Because I remember us fretting to get tickets for certain films, and we couldn't get the day we wanted, we couldn't get the time, couldn't get the area we wanted, so we had to just succumb to either very front or super far left. We didn't actually have to buy these tickets ahead of time. We could have went in and got really good seats that day. I thought that was very odd.
Yeah, so I think that there is a weird energy going into this movie. And I think that there is a harsh, honest conversation that we can have about the space of comic book movies right now and the space of both companies, the big two. The general public generally cares more about Marvel stuff. Marvel movies and TV shows are the biggest thing in entertainment right now, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Like they dominate pop culture in a way that only like, I mean, I would say the only thing that steps ahead of the MCU in terms of pop culture references is like prestige television.
Mm-hmm.
So like Game of Thrones, Better Call Saul, stuff like that is the only thing that kind of like etches out the MCU stuff.
I don't even know if I would say it etches it out, because think of the mass amounts of young people and people who grew up on this stuff. Those comic book references are made in like those shows.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
So,
I see where you're getting at, but I think Marvel, the
you're
machine
right.
of Marvel is so strong. But in their defense, like they had 20 years to do this.
Yes.
You know?
Well, yeah.
Or like,
And
I guess like 16 years, something like that.
and that's fair. And I think that the issue is with DC is that when they were getting off the ground, the movies weren't doing what they were supposed to.
Yeah.
So in doing that, even though all the recent DC movies post Wonder Woman 1984 have been either really good or like great up until Black Adam.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that the general public cares right now. they haven't been given a reason to care. And I think that's fair. I think if that's the way you're going into this stuff, I get it. It's investment. It's fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of general audiences are feeling right now about DC movies. And it's disappointing to guys like you and I who grew up on and our buddy Appetite Avatar, who grew up on these massive, I mean, DC characters were the ones who kind of dominated our childhood with
My
entertainment.
favorite superhero of all time is Batman. It's
Yeah.
like, and I think the hard resets over and over, like to you and I, we clearly pay attention to that. If I asked my girlfriend, she would have zero idea what I'm talking about and wouldn't care. But if you're taking a family of 5 or 6 out to the movies, you have 2 options. You're probably gonna go to the film that your kids have been invested in since they were 8. You're gonna go see the 3rd movie in a trilogy based on the Marvel character. You may not go to the DC one. Maybe it's too dark and brooding. Maybe it's confusing. You don't know if it's suitable for kids. You don't know if your kid's gonna like it. There's a lot of factors to it.
Yeah. My first question about the movie itself to you would be, do you think that, because I've heard the Rock talk a lot in this press tour, and actually I think if you're paying attention to that stuff, the Rock has been kind of gaining a lot of like geek brownie points. Like people have been liking what they've been hearing and what they've been seeing at the very end, which we will get into.
Yeah.
He has said that he's not he doesn't want DC to copy Marvel. He wants them to do their own things, and he wants them to focus on long-term good storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that The Rock went into making Black Adam and said this? I'm going into this trying to, in my own way, not relying on any other movie, trying to reshape and reset people's mindset about DC movies going forward. Because this felt a little like the old, but a little bit something different. Do you agree with that?
I would say first and foremost, The Rock I find to be a very genuine person. I assume he's a great guy. Anything I've ever seen is really nice. Everybody has some demons, but for the most part, he's always, no matter what role he takes, even if he's like cartoonish or he's always Dwayne The Rock Johnson, I feel as though he buys into whatever he's doing and he really puts an investment for the fans. So I'll never say I don't love that. When it comes to this film, I think he wanted to not only do what you were saying, but maybe just like blow people away. Like, let's get a $200 million budget. Let's make this stuff as crazy as possible. Let's have explosions every 10 minutes. Let's just have fun. Let's do what we want to do. And there were times where you could tell that. But one of my big issues with the film is like, this reminded me of Snyder, Whedon, Justice League. Like, it's so CGI. It's so... You were telling me before we got into the movie that one reviewer we listened to said it was like a 90s action type beat. And I understand what he's getting at, but I vehemently disagree because those 90s action movies that are some of my favorite movies of all time had aggressive practical effects, and you felt the $200 million budget. You can't have a lot of practical effects in superhero movies. I get that. Batman is different because he's humanistic and his takes are different, and I can get into that later. But Iron Man 1 felt like a practical film. You know what I mean? And part of that is because they had him in a real suit for most of it. Obviously, as the films progressed, you could tell the CGI. But that movie had like weight. When he got hit, you felt it. When he blew something up, it looked broken. There was gravity to what was going on. Sometimes with this movie, when I was watching it, I was like, a lot of this is just a giant cartoon. And for as much as I might be enjoying it, I can't buy into this like it's T2 because I don't feel that plane breaking up. I don't feel that wall coming down. You know what I mean? And that could be just me. It's not that it's not enjoyable. I just like when you mentioned that 90s action thing, I was like, oh, I love 90s action stuff. Like that's a huge guilty pleasure of mine. I was a little disappointed when I went in with the mindset, and I guess my definition of 90s action might be different than someone else. But it just kind of felt like weightless at points.
That's totally fair. I'm also a big fan of practical effects as well. For me, I think that with the CGI versus practical stuff, I think that with a movie like this, I just go into it understanding that I'm not going to get the practical stuff, and it's kind of like how you phrased yourself when you were watching the movie, where you're like, I could keep watching and be disappointed, or I can look at and try to have fun with what I got. Yeah. That's how I go into a lot of things nowadays with effects. I've heard, unfortunately, that it seems as, I guess, unfortunately for me, Daredevil Born Again, they plan on using some more CG stuff so that they can make Daredevil feel more acrobatic.
Well, I
like how he
mentioned
is in
that
the
when we
comics.
had our group chat, it felt odd because he was doing so much non-real stuff. But I think your point is correct. It's kind of on the viewer now. It would
Yeah,
almost be like nice if they said, "Please watch this." Like they just had an infomercial, like, "Please watch our movie," not thinking about previous films or content with or without this character. Go in as blind, like just as open as possible. Obviously, they'll never do that. But I myself, as a viewer, have to do a better job because I feel as though a lot of these DC films, minus like Matt Reeves' The Batman, are going to be aggressive big comic book films with $200 million budgets and a giant computer fest. And I have to do a better job to enjoy what I'm getting rather than like, I thought it'd be this, this, and that. So I think that's just like the work I have to do as a viewer.
I actually. So here's like some slight pushback here. I think that it's been happening more and more, and maybe we just. And this goes again back to the investment part of this conversation. I think, and I will go be upfront and say that I am not trying to compare Black Adam to any MCU movie. I think that is a, for lack of a better term, a garbage way to discuss like art and how art affects you and all this stuff. I'm using this as a way to discuss how I think the world is kind of viewing this stuff right now. When it comes to the big bloated Marvel CGI, like Avengers Endgame is all a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is investment. You care
Mm-hmm.
about these characters already, so you're okay with seeing all this stuff that isn't real, but you buy into it because you're like, who's gonna die here? I don't want my favorite to
And
die.
Endgame is a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a special drawing a blank here. It's like a
Like
diamond in the
the
rough.
exception to the rule.
Thank you. Because they spent years putting it together. Years. And not every movie's going to get that. So while I definitely agree with you, I even have to say objectively, like, you can't always compare to Endgame because they spent literal years with those effects, putting
Yeah,
everything together. And it shows. And you can't do that with every film. It's impossible. These people are
yeah,
already overworked as is.
100%. And I will say though, it seemed as though this movie took a long time to make, and I hope that the artist had as much time as possible. To me, the CGI looked good in this movie. I thought the
Yeah.
movie looked good.
I don't think it looked bad. It just had like a, like, this is a CGI. Like the end fight, I was like, CGI. Like, this is
Oh,
C.
I want to get into the
CGI.
ending later
Yes.
because the ending I think was the movie's biggest flaw.
But I thought
But
Dr. Fate looked great. I
ooh,
thought I
awesome.
want to, we're gonna get in on him. I thought Adam Smasher looked good. I thought is the city Kadesh?
Oh, hold on, give me 1 sec. But you can
It's
keep
a
going.
play on Mesopotamia. They're playing Mesopotamia as like their first civilization. They're just not using the term civilization because they had the same writing of cuneiform, me being a history guy,
Wow, that was,
on the walls. I know it's like
Kondak.
Kondak, sorry. So Kondak is basically the DC's version of Mesopotamia. I thought like old Kondak kind of looked like a bad 300. Like it really was just like, we put it together. Like it was rough. I was like, this is not good. But modern day, I liked how they had like the buildings and the flying bikes. Like clearly you could see the 21st century has hit it. But I
How
thought
good did
overall,
Cyclone look?
oh, like her effects.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought they looked very well. I thought they were
awesome.
done very well. And
So
of course, you
sick.
got to get those freeze frame shots to let the actress get her money because you got to show her there. But I thought I thought those effects looked good. And when Doctor Fate was grabbing Adam, and like obviously, I think Hawkman, you could tell he had CGI, but I feel like his helmet was real. Where in another movie we didn't really like, it was fake. You could totally tell. Obviously, the wings aren't real, but like I give the actor credit of wearing the stuff and the people designing the costumes to build that stuff. I think Doctor Suit. I'm curious to see if Doctor Fate's suit was entirely CGI the whole time. There was definitely parts where it was. That helmet has to be a practical thing, but I feel as though at certain points it was real.
I,
If not, it looked very, very good.
I feel like it had to be like when they were on the it wasn't a helicarrier, but
The plane,
their plane.
their X-wing,
Yeah, that looked just like the X-wing.
the whole house.
Yeah, that was very much X-Men from the 2000s. When he's got his helmet off in there, it was like, oh, that looks pretty good. Even though you could tell there's like padding on the suit, it's like that looks better than it did on Shazam.
Yeah,
That Pierce is rocking that thing, and he's a handsome older gentleman, but
handsome silver
you know
fox.
he was looking good. So I am glad that we both liked the CG in terms of visually, like how it looked. It
Yeah.
didn't look. It wasn't one of those movies where And again, I don't want to harp on any other movies that we've seen that we haven't really loved with CG. It wasn't to where you looked at it and you were like, ah, man, none of this is real, and
Yeah.
I'm not even buying any of it. What do you think of the score?
I thought it was okay. It really doesn't stand out to me if I'm being completely honest.
Wow, I'm shocked. Oh, I really like this score.
You did? Okay, so I mean, good for you. I'm
Wow.
doing, unless I'm just drawing a blank, it really didn't stand out to me. It could have been just because everything wasn't that impactful.
Okay.
I mean, please elaborate.
No, I thought that there was a real on a pod that has yet to be released that we recorded a couple months ago that I might just release anyways, just maybe at the beginning of the year. Maybe there's something we want to talk about in January, so we just pump that out. Who knows? Or we could do a double up. Who cares? I mentioned how in blockbusters I need either awe or like spectacle, and I thought that the score in this movie was really awe-inspiring. I thought that Black Adam's theme was very heavy, weighty, and it had like gravitas to it, kind of like how The Rock was portraying this character. I thought that there was a very kind of classic old hero-y feel to the Justice Society's theme.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you what the villain's score was because I was kind of like this when I was watching it. I was like, my mind is melting now. So I just really liked it. I'm going to give it a listen. Whenever there's a movie like this where I notice a score, I usually tend to like once in a while I'll pop it on either while I'm editing something or while I'm playing a video game or something. So I might listen back to the score, and who knows, maybe my opinion will change.
Well, no, I got to check it out again. I guess I was just so like, all right, like I wish it was louder. I know. I definitely got to check that out again, though.
That is an issue. Can we talk about The Rock?
Please.
So The Rock he's had such a weird movie career, man. Such a weird one. And we've talked about it on here before, but I feel like he really should be this generation's Sly, or maybe not Sly. Because Sylvester Stallone is a better actor than Arnold. The Rock is basically this generation's Arnold, to be honest with you. And I feel like he had or maybe I'm wrong, and this is why I kind of want to have this conversation. I feel like he had Sly potential, but went the route of Arnold, where it's just like, I'm chasing box office.
Yeah.
What was your opinion on The Rock going into this movie? Because people around us are a little bit sick of The Rock as an actor. What was your opinion going into this movie, and how do you feel coming out of it?
Going in, I was like indifferent. He was upselling the heck out of this film, so I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. I thought of the movie he was good. I do wish that he seemed like more angry. I feel like he was kind of just moot or like stoic, but I kind of wish that like when he was on Earth, he was like pissed and he was angry when the Justice Society spoke to him. Like, I got a lot of Drax vibes. Like he took everything very literal. I think Batista brings life to that character, even though he's probably done with that character. Drax is obviously different than Black Adam. Drax is more like high energy, all over the place, where Adam is more like stoic. But I kind of wish at the beginning of the film he was more angry and he started to like untense or relax and like learn what it means to be relaxed around people, learn to be comfortable around people. I will admit that like the one sarcasm joke in there was pretty good because he was so just like flat with it. That did make me laugh. But you were talking about like your favorite role of The Rock's, where it's not like you don't see Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you see like the character he's portraying. And I don't want to speak for you, but I think yours is The Rundown, if I'm correct.
It's tied between The Rundown and a movie called Snitch.
Okay, so mine is neither of those, although The Rundown is good. Snitch, I honestly have not seen, but have you ever seen Gridiron Gang?
Yes, I have. That movie bangs.
I think it's great. It's probably just like Remember the Titans-esque.
No, it's good. We don't have to qualify. It's fire.
I like it a lot. And I think in that movie, I don't see The Rock. I see like a teacher. I see like somebody who wants to better themselves. And The Rock obviously had a troubled history growing up. It's $7 production, I believe, because that was like the last $7 he had before something great happened to him. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But
yeah, it was like basically before going into like wrestling, I think.
Yeah. And he's clearly a man that has worked for everything in his entire life. And he will continue to grow that brand because he'll never forget where he came from. And I love that. Like I genuinely love that. And I just feel like in Gridiron Gang, it's like he is portraying not only the man, but he's taking his own story when he talks to those kids. And like when he gives those speeches, I feel like he's giving that speech almost to himself and he means it. He's not just reading the lines. He's like genuinely passionate about wanting to better these people. And I always thought if he was never an actor, he'd be a phenomenal teacher or a life coach because he seems to just want to help people become the best version of themselves. I don't really like his Instagram. It makes me uncomfortable, if I'm being completely honest. I don't like when he talks to the camera and talks about his snacks or his workouts. It's weird. It just makes me uncomfortable. But I like when he has interviews or like when he's trying to like help people and stuff, I think he's just a super genuine guy. And with Black Adam, like he clearly worked for the role and he wanted that role to be everything. But there were just some points where I was like, I don't feel it as much as you want me to feel it. You're working hard for me to feel it. I'm not feeling it that much. It kind of goes with maybe the story. I have some nitpicks there with how that works. But overall, I enjoyed him in the film. And I know what people are tired probably because it's myself included. It's 15 years of hype here. But if you have any interest in The Rock and you like these kinds of comic book movies, I think you should definitely go see it because he's just going to be doing another great performance of what you expect to get from him.
Yeah, I think that this is a slightly different version of some stuff that he's done recently. Like the Hobbs character is kind of the classic, the Hobbs character or the character from like San Andreas, where big charismatic guy who likes to kick butt, or in the case of like San Andreas, maybe isn't in a situation that he wants to be in and he has to save people.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what he does. That's been the Rock's MO for like a decade now. And it's worked for him, so who am I to tell him otherwise? But at a certain point, I also want to see some range. And I've mentioned it on here before. I think that Dave Batista, has, in terms of wrestlers turned actors, has challenged himself more than The Rock in more interesting ways. And I really appreciated that. And I want to see The Rock do some heftier stuff. You might be right. Gridiron Gang might be the last time where he's done like a fairly dramatic performance before. And back in that 2000s era, I think The Rock was leaning into doing some stuff like that before he got roles like the Tooth Fairy, the Race to Witch Mountain. What was that other one?
Journey to the Center of the Earth 2.
That one. And then there was one where he was
in Jumanji, I will say he's funny. That movie's actually not bad. The first one, the first remake or sequel or whatever. I thought all those actors were good.
I've heard that movie's actually pretty good.
It is. I genuinely did laugh, and I think he's good because he is acting like a middle school or like a freshman in high school white awkward teenage boy, and I think he does a very good job at it.
Well, that's the thing. The Rock is a really funny guy. That's why when a couple years ago, back in like 2013, when this got announced that he was going to play Black Adam, I was hoping he was going to play Shazam the whole time because The Rock's a funny guy. I'll be honest.
That would be a good.
I think he would have been better at Shazam.
That's actually really good.
And he back when he announced it, because of course he was the one who announced what he was going to play. He said that DC told him, whoever you want to be, you can be, and he said that he was between those two characters.
Wow, he would have been a great Shazam.
I know he could have
not that like, the Shazam we got was bad because I still think that's a good movie and Zachary Levi is good in the role. Yeah. But he would have brought. It's like when he finally reveals that his son was the champion, he wasn't the champion. I don't need him to shed like a thug tear and not look at anybody, but he should get pissed and be like, "Who are you to tell me how to feel?" Like, get mad, get angry, show some emotion, get in Hawkman's face and be like, "Number one, I could kill you right now if I wanted. And number two, like, I'm done with the games. Don't tell me what's going on." I feel as though if you just did one of those scenes, we don't need three, but if you keep your stoicness and then you have one scene where you just go off, all the audience will understand why you were so blah before, why you were just so like mediocre in emotion because you want to keep it in check. But when you break, that's part of the reason you can't control your power. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the thing at the end.
Is that on the director?
To like tell him to do that more?
Yeah.
Well, it could be like a Tom Cruise thing where it's like I honestly don't know who this director is. I don't know what he's made. When I saw his name, I was not familiar with it.
He made Jungle Cruise, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so then maybe The Rock is doing a Tom Cruise where I believe Tom Cruise is working with I believe Joseph Kosinski is the current director that Tom Cruise works with on almost all productions. And the reason being is because Joseph Kosinski allows Tom Cruise to just do what Tom Cruise wants, and if Tom Cruise tells him no, then he's like, "You're right, Tom. Whatever you want to do." And while I think that's kind of a bad thing because directors should challenge their actors. Obviously, don't like mentally or emotionally break someone, but get them to like change it up. All right, you did take one like you always do, but let's see what take two looks like this. And maybe The Rock might just vibe with this guy, and he's like, he lets me do what I want. I can kind of just get done when I need to get done. I can rock myself like this, pun intended, The Rock. But if he had like just a different director to be like, I love what you do, and we're going to do basically the whole movie how you want, but then we're going to refilm it the way I think you could do it. We're going to challenge you. And even if you hate it, you're getting paid anyway, so let's do it. I think you could get a lot of interesting things in that Black Adam character because at the end of the day, I just don't like feel bad for him. I don't care because he's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally understand you, and to some degree, I do agree with you. I want The Rock to challenge himself. I'm hoping in future DC movies with this character, he does kind of try and do some different stuff and get some stuff out of him. Especially, I feel like eventually this character is going to turn a little bit and get a little villainous and fight Shazam and fight Superman eventually.
At the same time?
Possibly, because there's an animated movie in which that happens, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I gotta watch that actually.
Yeah, it's you can just watch the fight, to be honest. We'll get into that later on off pod or something. So yeah, no, I would agree with you there, and it makes sense. But something I've got to mention here is that it seems like general audiences like when The Rock just does The Rock. It's the weirdest thing. They just like him. And that's okay. Can I read you some of the highest grossing Rock movies ever?
Yeah, please do.
All right. So we have Furious 7, $1.5 billion.
Okay.
And we go The Fate of the Furious, $1.2 billion.
Is that the 8th one?
I don't know.
Don't yell at me.
No,
keep going.
I think that was Fast 8. I think The Fate of the Furious was 6. No.
Doesn't matter. I should have asked.
Now I'm pissed off because I don't know this. So we got Jungle Cruise. Oh no, I'm sorry, Jumanji, which was $962 million. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think the one that you asked me about was 9. Because the next one is Fast and Furious 6, which was $788 million. And we go Hobbs and Shaw, which I saw. That movie's insane.
Happy I didn't see it.
$758 million. Wow, when you go through some of the pictures of him, you can see where he really bulks up. And in this movie, he is really bulked up.
Dude.
Then we go
traps.
Then we go to Moana, which actually might be The Rock's best performance ever. Just throwing that out there. $643 million. A little lower than I would have thought for that movie. Then Fast 5, which in my opinion is the best Fast and Furious movie, $626 million.
So you give him a car, people like him.
He's actually credited with like saving the Fast and Furious franchise. And then the bottom of the list of the top 10 is Rampage, which, I mean, who could care less about that movie, to be honest with you? It's just fake King Kong. So yeah, he's a box office draw. And granted, half that list is like Fast and Furious stuff.
Yeah.
But again, he's part of the reason that the Fast and Furious movies didn't die out.
Mm-hmm.
He just is. Fast 5 saved that franchise. So while you and I and a lot of cinephiles probably do want some more out of The Rock,
yeah,
I can't blame him for just kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality.
We do this because we love, but also we're super analytical about stuff that we love, right? Like any other Joe Schmo on the street, they're going to go watch this, enjoy it, and be like, Rock did Rock things. So who am I to blame them, right? But that's why we have this pod. That's why we do this, to air out all this dirty laundry we got.
Yes. So ultimately, are you excited to see more? We'll close the Rock discussion on this. Are you excited to see more Black Adam in the future?
Oh yeah, I'm curious now what they're gonna do with that DCEU, whatever they have. But I definitely want to see a follow up. I want to see future plans. I want to see these characters interacting, and I'm curious what is going to happen next. I definitely want more.
Apparently, they're already working on the script for the second movie,
Interesting.
which is good. Get a plan, stick to it. Let's talk Justice Society.
Yes, please.
Oh man, I love Hawkman and Dr. Fate in this movie. I think they rule. What were your thoughts on these? I guess in the general public's mindset, they might seem like C-level characters, but they're really more so like B to A if you're like in the know.
Yeah, they're like Justice League adjacent. If you watch the animated series, they're all there, I believe.
If
I
you're,
mean, at one point they have like several hundred heroes. So,
well, no, if you watch the animated series, Dr. Fate is like borderline A level because
and
he's
in Young Justice, he's like super important as well.
yeah, he's an important character to the DC lexicon. He's like part of the reason why I don't want to actually get into a bunch of stuff that happens in the DC animated universe. If you haven't watched that stuff, go watch it. It's the best DC stuff ever.
Yeah.
He's really important, and Hawkman is massive in that show, but he's a villain. Hawkman's kind of like this, in my opinion, he's kind of like this Play-Doh of a character where you can kind of do what you want with him, and I could be wrong, but that's my view of it. What were your thoughts of them in this movie?
I thought the intro of them was super stupid and hilarious. They just montaged the shit out of all these characters. It was X-Men 2000. You got the X Mansion. I mean, Hawk Mansion. You got the Hawk Wing. But honestly, it's like it's an overstuffed cartoonish popcorn movie. Like, what are you gonna do? Just get these characters in. I thought Dr. Fate was leaps and bounds the best character. I really want to see Pierce Bronson in his own Dr. Fate film. I think it could be leaps and bounds better than a Doctor Strange film. Dare I say, Dr. Fate could be one of the most interesting DCEU characters out there. I have a feeling that Pierce Bronson is a one and done because, spoilers, his character dies at the end, or they want us to believe that he dies. He is an older man. Maybe he just did this for fun, but I think he did a good job in it. His character fascinates me. I want to learn more about Dr. Fate and his overall like role there. I thought that the guy who played Hawkman was pretty good. It was a little cartoonish at times, but I was like, I like your look. You clearly will never be Black Adam, so let's stop with the 3 fights. Like, come on. What are we doing? Come on. Dr. Fate can literally tell you if you're going to win or lose. Just ask him. And Atom Smasher and what is it?
Cyclone.
Whirlwind? Cyclone thing. I thought they were like punchy teens, but it sounds like the Justice Society is Hawkman and Dr. Fate and then revolving cast. Because Dr. Fate was talking to them like they were in it already, but they both were like, this is all super new and cool. I don't know if you guys caught that. I could also be wrong. I don't know, but it seems as though Dr. Fate and Hawkman hold it down. And then every few times they're like, let's get new people in here. And how they pick their team, it's like, okay, let's ultimate God power. Let's get these 4 schmoes.
Well, it seems as though, and this is part of the this seems to be part of the issue with the Justice Society, is that they sent some main guys with some B-listers because it was a conflict on conduct, not necessarily the biggest thing that we have to worry about. Send these guys over and just take care of it. So I think that it was Hawkman is one of the main members of the JSA. Dr. Fate probably is as well because their history together. Yes, exactly. And then they were like, let's send a big guy over and someone who can control wind, and we should be enough.
And for anybody who was like, oh, Atom Smasher's just like Ant-Man, open a book. All these characters are the same. It's just 2 different versions. So relax. All right. Oh, I should say open a comic book. But there's a reason that you have the Flash and Quicksilver, right? There's a reason you got Iron Man and Batman. Like, it's okay. But I thought Atom Smasher looked cool. I thought his growth was cool. I loved the white eyes. Loved the white eyes. But when he was unconscious, I wish they closed. I was like, is he dead? But what is this?
I actually just real quick, I just want to say DC does costumes the best out of any live action superhero movies. It's like not even close.
I would agree with that.
Especially the stuff in this movie, it's like, ooh, this is comic accurate in like a really good way.
And The Rock's costume was just objectively great.
Oh,
I kind of wish he doesn't have. I hope he doesn't have a cape in the sequel. I hope he loses that and he's like capes it for nerds. I like the clean look. I love the first look of the corrupted Thunderbolt. I kind of
Mm.
wish he like kept that because it like reminds him of what he was like coming from, you know. But you know, every new movie they got to alter the costume some way. But I would definitely lose the cape.
Yeah, the selling of toys is what's gonna stop that. But I would agree on the cape. Even the hood, I was like, let's lose that and
I kind of
get.
like the first suit, like the first hood, like when he wakes up and he has the hood over his face. I kind of like that whole
Mm.
vibe. It looked more like desert sand,
Oh, okay, I
mystic,
can see that. I can see that. Yeah.
and it
When
looked
did he
more
lose the
tattered
hood?
because he got shot 100 times and stuck into a fire.
Oh, yeah. With the bomb, right? The when the bomb went off in his hands, and he
Yes.
was like, yeah. By the way, I want to talk. Try to keep that in your mind. I want to talk later about your favorite like sequence in the movie or your favorite action moment
Oh yeah, definitely.
because there's some stuff going around memeing this movie that I'm like, did we watch the same movie? That was an awesome moment. What are you talking about? Anyways, so yeah, I like the JSA. I thought that Hawkman and Doctor Fate kind of carried the movie from their perspective.
Hmm.
I thought they were doing the best. I want to give like a pretty big shout out actually to Aldous Hodge as Hawkman. I think he has real leading man energy. I wouldn't mind a JSA show with him like being the main character and then like having that rotating cast of people he's trying to coach up. Maybe he's coaching up a younger
Not on
team.
the CW though. We want it on
No.
HBO Max.
That's why.
We want it
No.
on HBO Max.
Oh, I hope Superman and Lois is okay. Anyways, so our buddy Appetite Avatar outright borderline like hated Adam Smasher as a character. He was like, he didn't work for me at all. And I totally get where he's coming from. I think he was used to be like kind of like what Wally West's Flash was supposed to be like in the Justice League cartoon,
Mhm.
where it's like here's the young guy, funny, likes
So
ladies.
do you think he's used as a conduit for teenage boys to just imagine themselves partying with the Justice Society?
Kind of. That's what it
Yeah.
felt like to me. And not a terrible thing because in my opinion he didn't like suck and the actor his name is Noah Centineo. He did a perfectly serviceable job. I think that Quintessa Swindell did a better job though. I think that she was pretty good in her role. She had she had more of a presence on screen in
Hmm.
my opinion. And you could just tell that she kind of like felt like she belonged.
Yeah.
I do wonder if Brosnan, um, I wonder if he didn't want to do more movies. If he was like, no, I'm just signing up to do one.
Hmm.
If they were like, okay, so we'll use you as the death.
They can always backdoor him in somehow using the helmet. But I thought he did you like the guy, what was the guy who portrayed Hawkman? What was his name again?
Aldous Hodge.
Do you think Aldous Hodge was better than Brosnan in the film objectively?
Ooh.
Because I think Brosnan was the best one in the entire movie. Like he was
Yeah,
really good. I'm a Brosnan fan from James Bond and whatnot, but I think he was like really good.
I think he was. I think Brosnan was better than Aldous Hodge, but I don't want to take anything away from Hodge because I thought
Yes.
he did. He went toe to toe charisma wise with The Rock, in my
Yes, I
opinion.
would agree with that. He had probably the hardest job.
Yeah, because he's going bar for bar with him. That's not easy.
And even though contractually he can't win those fights, right? We know
Yeah,
what you do, Rock. We know what you do.
but I will say they did a good job of not making him look like a jobber, in my opinion. Hawkman
Like
seemed
just
like
getting thrown around.
yeah, like he seemed
Yeah.
like he was getting hurt, but he wasn't like breaking bones or whatever. He was
No,
getting
yeah,
up.
yes.
So yeah, I like the JSA. Do you want to see more of them going forward?
Yeah, I think with what DC might do, you could have JSA films and JL films and Inter films where they meet up with each other. Like the coolest part about any superhero thing is you can have all these heroes just coexist. And like obviously, yes, when conduct is completely shutting down, we should be asking where are these other heroes? But you can always say they're off world or they're doing another mission. But like the coolest part about the DC animated stuff is that at any given point, you can have 6 new heroes doing an episode. And it's like how they interact and how they do things. And I think that'd be so cool to see live with all these characters, how they're portrayed. You can have a film where they fail because they had the wrong combination of people. That'd be so cool to see. Like, yeah, we screw things up sometimes. You can't always have a Batman. So like, What are we going to do if we have a Robin type with an Atom Smasher? We got these two young kids that don't know what's going on. We have one guy trying to keep it together like a Martian Manhunter, but he doesn't know how to work with these three. What if they lose that movie and there's a sequel where they got to team up a different way? I think that'd be very interesting.
I would agree with you. And I actually, my favorite part about the JSA is actually the fact that the citizens of Kahndaq were pissed at them.
I also like that a lot.
That's the thing that I think saves this movie from being like a fun bad movie to just a fun movie. Because it's like, no, there's stuff in here where you could tell someone who was writing the script was actually thinking. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I love that. The first thing that that Adriana says to the Justice Society is like, "Wait, hold on. Why are you here now? We have someone now. You were needed yesterday in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Now you want to come here because someone else came here to do your job? Like, what's going on?" I love that. Did that work for you?
I did like it, and I think like at the end when they put their hands up to recreate the holding of Eternium, what is it? The cousin of unobtainium?
No, that was the rock thing that Jay-Z does.
Wait, no, but don't they do that because he was holding up the stone?
Yeah,
Isn't
who
that why he
knows?
did that?
Maybe.
No matter what, that was a little cartoonish, but I do
No,
really
that
like
was.
that this place has their own hero, and they acknowledge that it's like when you fight in your city, you're right. Right? It's kind of like Zemo, my favorite villain in Marvel, possibly hot take. When you do stuff, it's right, but when we try to do it, it's wrong. Or when you cause destruction, we celebrate you. But if we cause destruction to our own people or whatever, now we're the bad guys and we need to be locked up. So I thought that was an interesting play. And I kind of like how The Rock is begrudgingly like accepting that. He's not just outright like, I did like that he was like, I never said I was a hero. You wrote this story about me. I know my own truth. Again, I wish I kind of expounded on that through emotion. But I do like how his character was always like, you just think that I'm this person. Like, no one has ever asked me what's going on. But I did like all that interplay.
For sure. And I think that the fact that the JSA works for Amanda Waller kind of adds to that a little bit. It's like, no, you guys are kind of dirty a little bit.
Oh, that would also be a good juxtaposition to the Justice League, who is like an independent Avengers type society.
Well, now I'm curious about that. You know,
the
why?
Justice League also might just not exist anymore. Like
No,
that
I
might
think
not
they
even
do.
be a thing.
I think they do. And here's why. Did you spoilers for Peacemaker? They are at the end of Peacemaker. The Justice League comes by. I'm curious, does Amanda Waller now tell them what to do?
That'd be weird. I would like the Justice League to be their independent thing.
I
Which
agree.
is one of the reasons they didn't maybe know what was going on in Peacemaker. And it would be interesting to see the Justice Society operate with Waller. And then you could have conflicts of interest. Like the Justice League could question them, and the society could also question back the Justice League. Like, we may not be doing the right thing in your eyes, but at least we have missions and set goals where you guys just serve your own higher purpose.
I would agree. I worry that it's not going to be that case. Although, again, it could have been a throwaway. And we might as well, if I'm going to mention it, we might as well talk about it. Because Amanda Waller is kind of who introduces Superman in this movie at the end. Where she says, I can send someone from outside this planet to deal with you. So, and who knows, maybe it's more so she's with the government and the government can contact Superman. Who knows? And in saying that, I kind of want to just talk about it. And would you let me go first for a second?
Yes, please, please. You've been waiting a while.
It like hurts my brain that The Rock had to fight. And I read an article about this right before filming, which just riled me up a little bit. So they filmed the end credit scene of this movie before Henry Cavill was even on. So that scene in which you thought, oh, it's going to be a silhouette.
Yeah.
Originally it was. They filmed that on the last day of filming.
I was right. It was a CGI silhouette. I knew it.
It was supposed to be a headless Superman.
Oh
just
my
showing
God.
up. Yeah, just like in frickin' Shazam. Oh God, I would have been so furious. I would have been so upset, Brad. But also kind of happy that Superman's back in general. But
no,
whatever.
That actually would have just. I know you want to go, but that would have been like a joke. That would have made them look like a freaking clown show. You do that twice, and now he's talking to a headless figure.
Because it's
that
like,
would have been stupid.
Where it just sign someone at that point.
Yes.
But this is why The Rock is getting a lot of brownie points amongst geeks. He says it always. He listens to the fans. And he did. He delivered Henry Cavill to this movie. And that is why this scene was so last minute. It happened, I think, in August, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
I don't think that they filmed on the same day. The score that they use for that is a version of the John Williams score that they found on Google. This is all from the Hollywood Reporter. I'm not making any of this up.
I believe you.
I read it 5 minutes before hopping onto this call. So Superman appears. Henry Cavill, it's the most he's ever looked like Superman. He looks great.
Yeah.
He's got the curl swinging down his face, jawline popping out like a razor blade, costume super colorful, looking like a rainbow. And he says, it's been a while since anyone's been this worried about someone on the planet. And then he says, we should talk. And The Rock looks at him like, we'll see if I want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Forget The Rock in this scene. I am just so excited at the possibility of finally having Superman back. They are confirmed working on getting a Superman movie made. Henry Cavill has not signed on yet to do the movie. And my theory is this. He's waiting for the script. He's playing it smart. I think he's going, no. Once you decide what you're doing and you present me with a plan and you present me with the movie, then I will sign on. I'm not signing on to just not be used again. And I'm not signing on to make a movie that doesn't perform well outside of my control, and then I get blamed for it. That's what happened. His movies underperformed, but they're not his fault. He's good in the movies, but they're just not crowd pleasers, and they're not making enough money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so excited to finally have a live-action Superman back. What say you?
No, I was jacked up. You and I believe our friend Appetite Avatar knew this before the movie.
I saw
played
the picture 2 weeks ago.
Okay, that's why you kept saying your TL is so different than mine. Your Twitter timeline, I was like, I don't even know what you mean. Mine's just covered on I think you should leave jokes. Like I don't know what's going on, but I was genuinely shocked, and I was like so happy to be shocked.
Your mouth was a gas.
The whole movie, I'm just like, I get it, it's happening. Like we got it. All right, it was okay. But then when that happened, I was like, oh damn, like they did it. Even thinking about it now, I was like, they really went, like they did that. That's awesome.
Is that the best post-credit scene since the first Thanos one in Avengers 1?
If I'm being completely honest, I didn't understand the Thanos credit scene when I was that age. When I saw him, I was like, who is this guy?
Well, so would that be the best one since then, though?
Yeah, because I think my favorite one was when they previewed Shield, and you had Sam Jackson be like, "I want to talk to you about a group," and I was like, "Oh my god, they're gonna do it!" So I thought that was cool, but I think this one is like genuinely great. I'm happy it wasn't a joke. I'm happy it wasn't a waste. Like they spent the time, hopefully spent the money, paid that man for his 10 minutes. But now I just hope it pays off, like you said, because I'm sick of getting like tickled and then people walk away. Like finish the job.
I'll tell you this right now. If they don't make a Superman movie with him in it, it kind of buries them.
It's going to be bad because I don't know what your justification is and what you do. And they still are probably making the Michael B. Jordan Superman film, which is fine. Make 30 versions. That's fine. I don't care.
I don't know if that's the case, bro.
I saw, I think on Screen Rant, they were still probably going through with it. I could be wrong. But bottom line, make all the versions you want. If you're going to introduce Cavill and do all this, and The Rock's going to work so hard, give the man a just do script and tell the story.
I think that they're going to use Henry Cavill going forward. Again, you just need to give him his own movie. We need another Superman movie, please. And for the love of Christ, Michael Keaton should not be Batman in this universe. Did you read that thing that I sent, the tweet?
Yeah, it was like he got paid $2 million
to be in a cameo of like 10 minutes of Batgirl. What are we doing? What are we doing? Just decide on a Batman, a Bruce Wayne who's like under the age of 60, please, and stick with it. I don't care if it's Affleck.
Or you could buy into the Batman Beyond idea for this universe.
Really? You want that?
I don't know if I so much want it, but I love the Reeves Batman film. I genuinely loved it. I think it's great. I want them to do 100 different stories, do all the spinoffs, do everything. That will never work in this universe. So I need a Batman that will work in this universe. And Bale's Batman worked to a point, but in Justice League, I always felt like he was depowered or he was standing there with some kind of gun.
Affleck, you mean?
What was I saying?
You said Bale.
Oh, it's been a long day. Sorry. Affleck, yes. So I wouldn't honestly hate if Keaton is like, I'm too old for this shit. I'm going to recruit not Timothy Chalamet because he's in too many things, but a Chalamet-esque figure. You're going to be my Batman now. And you might have more future tech. And it might just work in this kind of stuff because all these people are so overpowered. You know what I mean? It's not even like I want that, but I think it might be the best solution to the problem that's presented. And it could be done well. It's never been done on film. I think it'd be done very interestingly. And then maybe you could even go back and Mega Brain here, cast a younger Michael Keaton and tell an Elseworld like back in the day story just to do it. And then you can have an older version, a younger version of the old Batman you have. Then you have your DCEU Batman Beyond that can work with Shazam and Superman and all these people. Do I absolutely want that? No. I would love to have a tried and true Batman, but I think it would be an interesting solution to the problem of all these superpowered heroes. Because at the end of the day, I just don't see it like a Batman thriving here. Even if Shazam and Superman are fighting, that man is eating a popsicle on the side. In the animated universe, I can suspend the disbelief. It looks different. It feels different. When I see real life people doing all this, my personal take when I see it, it's just like he can't operate here.
So do you not like it when Black Widow and Hawkeye are involved in Avengers stuff?
To a point, and if you notice, they tend to always be like by themselves.
Yeah.
They tend to be off to the side. Like Captain America, obviously a super soldier serum, so he can be more involved in the mix, but those two are always fighting off to the left, or they're literally in their own scene. I think Hawkeye show was great. It's hard. It's just hard to do. I don't know. It's because now that I think about more of Black Widow and Hawkeye, like they're always fighting the sub person, or like they try to find them to be important to grab this and run there, you know. What I would absolutely love for them to have a Batman plan, but like Reeves' Batman will never work in this, and I also don't want them to ever combine. It's two completely different styles, from the opening credit. Completely different styles, and I want them to do that, do all the stuff DC wants to do. But if they're gonna do like a Batman, I'm truly curious how they do it. I would agree, get rid of the Keaton thing. It was cool, but once they literally buried Batgirl and no one will ever see it, there's no point to do it.
Would you be okay if Affleck came back full time
as the Batman he was?
Yes, but sans killing.
I thought he was good. I would be curious how they bring him back and what they do. And I think he would have more tech. I think as an older Batman, he would rely on those like suits or something, you know.
And would that work for you, like a tech suit, kind of like the one you fought Superman with?
When we talked about our JL Snyderverse pod, our 3-hour megapod there, I said that would have honestly worked for me. Like I would have understood that he was in the suit. And then as the suit breaks down, not only he's like, yeah, I might have to use the suit, but I also have brains, dude. Like I know everyone's weakness. And then it just like involves everybody. Because I hate when my favorite character is on the side grappling people. Like I don't like that. I want him to be used. There's a reason he has literally all the solutions to beat everyone and they try to kick him out of the Justice League. He has a failsafe for everybody. He's a genius. But on these fights, I just don't want him standing there with a gun. That's gross. I hate that. If they were to bring him back into this universe, it'd be great if he directly addressed that, like, I lost my path as Batman. And I've clearly done wrong. And I can never make enough amends for how I broke my own moral code. But now, like, with my last few years in me, I need to be the best version of this guy as I can be. And I think Affleck could do a great job of telling that because even though he's not a murderer, he had his own demons to battle. I think he'd do a very good job of stating his own personal beliefs of how he wants to fix himself within the character.
He like could be the emotional fulcrum of this
universe. He could. Remember in the Justice League animated series, again, people hopefully have been seeing this, but if not, thanks for listening an hour in and listening to us talk about it. When the one girl is like going to die or explode
that's the best thing in any superhero thing ever made.
Yeah, he just like sits there and he just gives her comfort. He just does this small thing.
Mm-hmm.
He is the human that like they need.
Yes,
and he's not the god.
And in that show, at one point, he gets possessed by a ghost. The ghost uses his body, shoots someone dead with a gun in Batman's body, and afterwards, he is like despondent that his body did that, even though it wasn't him in control.
Yeah.
So don't let him do that. Let Bruce Wayne be great. And I contend that he's awesome in Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Would you agree? Like he is full on great comic cartoon Bruce Wayne Batman combined
in the Snyderverse one.
Yes. So I think he's got it in him, and he's in. No, that was announced, so it's okay to say he's in both The Flash and Aquaman 2.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Are you excited for DC movies going forward? Did this movie essentially, before we get into the ending of the film and kind of get on the poo-pooing of it, did this movie as a whole reinvigorate your feelings about DC movies? Because you and I pre-2017 were really excited about this stuff.
For DCEU, because I'm going to keep emphasizing that, I don't count Reeves as like that, but for DCEU films, I'm looking forward to more turn it off, eat the popcorn films. I'm going to go in from now on all those movies with, as bad as it may sound, lower expectations. Want to enjoy the film. Did I have fun with this film? Did I walk out with a smile on my face? If I get more of that, and they happen to tell good stories, and they can get me from time to time emotionally, then I'm in. And this is really helped, like, sparked to me, like, I want to see this now again. I'm excited, especially with that last Superman drop. I am genuinely excited to see what happens next. I do want to see the Shazam sequel. I want to know what happens there. I want to see how it all connects via continuity. So yeah, I'd say overall I'm definitely excited.
So now let's get into the one part of the movie aside from the beginning. Actually, I think this movie bookends horribly. I think that the opening portion where it's super 300 slow-mo, very overexposed visuals, I was like, what is this garbage? And then the movie kind of settles back into itself and it's like, okay, well, thank God. And then the end of the movie, essentially the devil comes out of the ground, out of the villain. Real quick, just quick aside, I thought out of all the human characters, the ones I didn't like were the brother, the comedic relief. Didn't find him effective, to be honest with you.
It was not funny.
No. The baby come back stuff, it's like, dude, are we in 2006? What is this?
Transformers?
Yeah, seriously. I thought that the villain, even as a human, was like, oof.
Yeah.
Are we in like the bad Mummy sequels? What's going on here? It's this old timey, like, here's the villain at the end of the movie. Also sort of similar to Doomsday in BVS.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, we get it. We need our heroes to come together and stop fighting each other. But like,
so I wish that Black Adam fought his son. And that his son was corrupted by the power. And Black Adam ended up getting the power somehow. I didn't work out my spec script in my head. But I left the movie and I was like, number one, he didn't really fight him enough. He just ripped him in half, which I thought was objectively cool as shit.
Awesome.
Looked awesome. But the Justice Society did 90% of the fighting. He came in at the end, cleaned it up. But I feel as though if the villain was his son and he was mad that he let his son become so corrupted, the fight could have been so much more emotionally impactful. Now, how they would do it with the Shazam powers and who got one way and why, I don't know all those details right now. But I don't know if you have an opinion on this. I just literally threw it at you. But if his son was the corrupted one who was like, I had the Shazam powers and I have these powers, this is how it works. And through Black Adam's learning of what being like human is and relearning humanity and understanding sarcasm and like how to work together and stuff, he doesn't have to give like the soapy one-tier speech, but he could try to plead with him like, I wronged you when you were young. It's been 5,000 years. Like, even though I was dormant, whatever, I'd be like, you never left my brain. I've always wanted to help you and fix you or whatever. Like, the fight would have been better because he would have held back. He would have got beat up. And then at the end, he has to literally rip his own son in half because there's no other way to end this. I just thought that would have been better.
That would have been really emotionally resonant. Maybe you could have done, I apologize if this sounds stupid, but I'm just trying to go off the top here. Maybe when he gives 10th Adam his powers in that transfer, maybe he's not supposed to transfer his powers to people who aren't chosen, and it corrupts him.
Something like that. I just feel as though there's no connection to that villain. And the worst villains are the ones that just pop up at the end.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, I'm the descendant of the king, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you
Next.
doing? Whatever. I thought him ripping him in half was awesome. And that leads us into the final category of the pod. What was your favorite kill? Or your favorite action moment? We can just phrase it as that.
I liked the painted black scene was hilarious because I was just like, this is so outrageous. I really liked though when he grabbed the first guy and boiled him down to skeletons and he melted, because I was like, wow, they're really gonna do that. Like, that was cool. Obviously, like when he rips the guy in half, that was great. But I think one of the coolest ones is just the first time when he grabs him and like they show full skeleton, melts down, crumbles, and he squeezes his fist. I thought that was pretty cool.
For me, it was at one point, I forget if it's on the ocean or if it's in the air. He takes someone's hover bike and rams through the guy's body with it. And
you're right. I forgot that one. That one wins because I audibly freaked out, and so did you and Avatar. We all lost it. That was vile.
I almost never make noises in movies, and I made a noise when that happened.
That was good. That was definitely the best one because I was like, oh, he murders the shit out of that guy.
Dude, his guts exploded. That was awesome.
That was crazy.
Oh, man. Yeah. So I wouldn't mind more of that in Black Adam movies. Like, keep that. Never get rid of that. I want that action.
Be over the top. And when he hurts the bad people, have him literally obliterate them. And he can be like, yeah, maybe I don't kill like everybody, but if you're bad, like, you're not coming back.
Yeah.
And that could always be a struggle. Like, there has to be a balance.
Yeah. Like, oh, you like push an old lady down, bang, you're dead. Like stuff like that. Yeah. That Western scene where he's like holding his electricity in his hand, like waiting to go, and he just kills them all right off the bat. That was awesome. Love the Dr. Fate stuff. Love the Hawkman stuff. Thought the action in this movie was good. Overall, I thought the movie was kind of rad. It'll be a movie that this is the way I phrase it. This is going to be a movie that I throw on TNT or USA Network or whatever on Sundays when I'm like writing a script or cleaning my place or whatever. That is what this movie is going to be. It's a movie that I'm going to be able to rewatch, have fun, watch some action scenes, keep it on in the background. Who cares? And I'm okay with a movie like that.
No, I totally agree. I think you said it perfectly. You turn your brain off, you get to do other stuff, you pop in for the action. And if you miss something, it's not the end of the world. Move on, go to the next thing. There's always a place for films like that.
Yeah. KG, where can people find you?
At KG4346. And if you want to check out my band's page, it's at Above the Moon Music. New LP should be coming out hopefully sooner than later.
Awesome. And you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Geeks Weekly. And you can find me on Instagram at Buffcharmander GW. We'd like to thank you all very much for listening to this episode of the Sweaty Dive Podcast. Be on the lookout next month for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the movie which may or may not hold the fate of my Marvel fandom going forward. That movie, oh gosh, it better be good, KG.
Wow, what a setup.
Yeah, we'll see.
I can't wait for next month now.
Yeah. Again, thank you all very much for watching. Once again, I've been Buffcharmander, joined as always by my good pal KG.
Until next time.
Stay safe and stay sweaty, my friends.